Hey there, welcome to Midas Letter Live. My guest this segment is Jonathan Baha'i. He's the founder of ExeBlock Technology Corp, trading under XBLK on the CSE. Jonathan, thanks for joining me today.
It's great to be here. Thank you very much.
Jonathan, let's start with a quick overview. What is it exactly that ExeBlock does?
So ExeBlock is the developer of decentralized applications that run on the blockchain. So the types of applications that we're working with blockchain are what we believe are going to be the networks of the future. Blockchain can be used in many different ways today. Some people are building private blockchains, hybrid blockchains, but then you have decentralized public blockchains, which are the same type of blockchains which Bitcoin and Ethereum and a lot of the popular brands that you know today run on. And so at ExeBlock, what we believe is that we're approaching different verticals where we believe that public blockchains with our technology would be able to advance and gain mass adoption. And with that, our model is to be able to gain revenues through a per transaction basis. That means that with all the activity that happens on the blockchain, that increases the revenues for ExeBlock.
Okay, so what are your most sort of revenue forward projects right now?
So we're very close to the public launch of our 50/50 Labs. 50/50 Labs is a decentralized application which has been designed to be launched on the Pure Plays blockchain, which is a gaming blockchain. With that, it's going to allow for various charitable organizations around the world to be able to run 50/50 DApps directly, or sorry, 50/50 draws directly on the blockchain. This solves a lot of problems in regards to auditability, transparency, and it also brings a whole new feature, which allows for draws to be held worldwide. For the end user, it also makes it easier to use. And of course, with this, it means that with every single ticket that's bought and sold, ExeBlock is going to receive a portion of those transactions.
That sounds lucrative. So blockchain at the core is what your expertise is?
Absolutely.
Okay, so then perhaps you're one of the better people to ask. What exactly is blockchain? How would you describe it in the most simplest terms?
So, as I said earlier, blockchain can be used in a lot of different ways. There's essentially four elements that make a decentralized public blockchain. You have a consensus mechanism. You may have heard of proof of work or proof of stake. These are consensus mechanisms that allow for the network as a whole to be able to decide what is the true state of the database. And so with the database, you have the second part, which is a decentralized distributed ledger. That means that there's a distributed ledger all across multiple nodes that are being run by multiple parties, which don't even have to know each other, but they are validating that the state of the database is true and that it is consistent. Then you have a third element, which is the incentive structure. We know it more well as mining in Bitcoin, for example. You create an incentive structure that has all the parties incentivized to be aligned in wanting to maintain a consensus of the database. And then finally, fourthly, there's always some kind of a smart contract. In the case of cryptocurrencies, the smart contract there is simply a currency of some kind. In the case of something that runs on an Ethereum network, for example, there can be all kinds of applications. In our case, with the development of the 50/50 DApp, we have a very advanced smart contract, essentially, which allows for the entire administration of a 50/50 draw with multiple parties and millions of buyers all over the world. So there's lots of ways that can work. A smart contract, just to put it into simpler terms, is really a statement of if this, then that. So basically, when you execute that in multiple forms, you end up coming up with something that's more complicated. So think of all of that. These are just what I consider the four ingredients to having a true blockchain. Now, some people in the blockchain space have thought that they can take away an element. Think about like baking a cake. You decide, well, let's just take the eggs out and then let's see what we have here. You may come up with something that if somebody's never had cake before, they probably think it's cake and they probably don't like the taste, but they're being told it's cake. So this is happening in the industry right now, unfortunately. I think as time goes on, much like what happened in the dot-com bubble days, people are going to start to realize who the true players in this industry are and who the people were that were trying to take out the eggs.
Interesting. So among the initiatives that you talk about in a recent corporate update, you talk about the development of DApps. And what exactly are DApps in the context of ExeBlock?
So DApps essentially are much like, think about applications that run on your phone today. Those are standard applications. The only difference is that an application is something which was created by a single entity, usually a company or a developer, and you are the end client that's using it. A decentralized application, a DApp, is a application which exists on the blockchain. Essentially, that means that it's available to everyone. It creates a peer-to-peer type of an environment, and there's no one person or entity that actually owns it. This means that everybody is free to transact without having to worry about some third party that's intercepting or deciding on how your transactions are going to be handled. Instead, it exists in the blockchain and is mathematically secured by the cryptography, so that you can essentially have a platform that you can always trust. In the case of applications as we know them today, you're trusting for another company to handle those transactions for you, or handling your data, your privacy settings for you. And as this is becoming more and more of an industry issue for companies that are trying to handle people's data, blockchain really is the solution to being able to enable everyone to be able to transact in a trusted form on a platform that's just mathematically secured instead of having to trust somebody else on the other side.
Fascinating. So when do you think, Jonathan, would ExeBlock become a profitable entity?
So with the launch of the 50/50 DApp, the 50/50 Labs is going to be capable of being able to accept Bitcoin. That is thanks to being put on the PeerPlays blockchain. That's going to allow for some adoption, but as many people know, cryptocurrencies are not easily accessible or very, very much used on a large scale. And of course, our focus is in mass adoption. Following that DApp, we're actually working on something else called Freedom Ledger. And so Freedom Ledger is going to allow to make it much, much easier for people to use payment processors that they understand and know today, banking cards, credit cards, and so forth, so that they can be able to buy these currencies quickly and then be able to offboard them quickly. With that, the introduction of Freedom Ledger, we believe that the DApps that we have created are going to have much more profitability because they'll have a capability of reaching a much larger scale. So following that, we're expecting to have that be publicly seen by Q3, which means by the end of this year, probably, we are going to start to see revenues that show some kind of profitability based on the adoption of Freedom Ledger at that time.
Okay, so that's relatively quick, only a year to wait. Jonathan, that's a great introduction. We're going to leave it there for now. We're going to come back to you in a quarter's time and see how you're making out. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.